Known for its stunning lakes, lush forests, and vibrant cities, Minnesota offers a unique blend of natural beauty and architectural charm. Today on Homeworthy, we're visiting two of the state's stunning homes, a 1950s rambler in St. Paul and an antique-filled Victorian in Stillwater. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Kate. Welcome to my house in St. Paul, Minnesota. Why don't you come on in? I'm Kate Ahrens, and we are at my home in St. Paul, Minnesota. This house was built in the 50s. The style of this house, it's really hard to define. It could be called kind of like a Frankenstein house because there isn't one particular style that it would fall into in terms of the category. I call it a Cape Cod rambler. It's got traditional elements, it's got some modern elements, it's got a stained glass ceiling. It really is a lot of fun. I think that's what you would call it. We moved in 2020. This house is less than a mile from where we were living, and someone sent us the listing and was like, this is your house. And we walked in and looked at each other from across the room, and we just knew this was the house for us. I think we just loved the personality, we loved the quirks, we loved the challenge of it and knew that we could really make it our own. I really like homes that have a lot of personality, and I don't think I really knew that about myself until I walked into this space and really just felt lit up by the idea of living somewhere that had so much energy around it. I live here with my partner, Joe, and our two kids, who are 6 and 7, and our sweet dog, Winnie. She is almost 10. I am what they would call an original gangster of the blogging world. I have been writing and creating things online since 2009, and Wit and Delight has been around for that long. So I think I was 24 and I was working as a graphic designer and just wanted to really write about things that I wasn't necessarily getting to create at work. And so the role of content creator, I guess, kind of grew up around that impulse to create and share. That was part of the emergence of what we now call social media. So I have been a lot of things, and I think content creator probably isn't the right one word for it. I create product, I design spaces, and I think when I look back at kind of the through line with everything that I've done and created, it has been about creativity and expression, and I think living in a way that combines like curiosity and creativity. And the hope is that my work inspires other people to do that. Whether or not your work is creative, how you create your home and your life can be a platform to do that, whether or not you share it on Instagram or not. This is the entryway. It was the room when we walked in and saw the house for the first time that we fell in love. The star of the show is this chandelier. It's from the 1920s, and it was an estate sale find that I saw and just immediately knew I had to make work in the space. I love the scale. We added the medallion at the top, and it really just makes this entry moment like sing, especially when you first walk in the door. I've always loved round tables in an entry. I often have fresh flowers here. These are dried that I got at a local coffee shop. I love this rug. This is one of those things where I had like a full body yes when I saw it. It's a Swedish Killam rug in these beautiful shades of pink. All of the little side tables have lived in different aspects and parts of my house, and right now they're just here to kind of hold junk, because every entryway you need to kind of, hide your stuff, sunglasses, keys, all of that. This mirror I found at an antique store and I love it so much. It's also had a lot of different homes in different parts of the house, but I love it here. It's like the last look before you head out the door, and it just makes me really happy. One of the things I love most about the house is that when you walk in the entryway, you have like a full line of sight all the way through to our dining room, and we wanted to really highlight that view because it's lovely to see through the backyard. So we've really designed the flow of the house to elongate and enhance that. We've tried a lot of different layouts and have found that this is the best one, where we have a sitting room and then the dining room that goes all the way through. And really this space is all about framing that view when you walk in, and it's probably one of my favorite parts of the house. And I just wanted to have a little bit of fun with color, do something unexpected, and I fell in love with this Kelly green color and wanted to put it somewhere. So I decided to do it on our doors. The entrance is black when you come in, and it's sort of a surprise to see the green when you leave. And I love that it's in a high gloss. I love that it's unexpected. I love that it's like a happy color. And just to add that like unexpected pop of something is just a design philosophy I love to live by. I would say the vibe is me. There isn't really one, I think, style or look. I think I've gone with what the house has sort of told me. I think that also is partly influenced by who lived here before. The previous homeowners, from what I understand, traveled a lot. They loved color. They loved creating rooms with personality, and I would like to think that I put my own spin on what was already here. So a lot of color, a lot of layer and texture. I would say that it is an eclectic expression of the things that I love and we love as a family. So green is one of my absolute favorite colors, and you'll see it sprinkled throughout the house. And speaking of green, I want to take you into the room that is right off the entryway, and that is our living room. So this is the living room. Our family calls it the green room. As you can see, we are wrapped in this lovely green color that is, it just reminds me of spring. I think that's the best way to describe it. It is where we watch TV, it's where we play games, it's where we hang out, it's just where we like completely relax. We have fires going as often as we possibly can. And it's one of my favorite things to do. This is a wood burning fireplace, and I love the process of building fires and tending to the fire and the smell of fire. So I love to have them going as often as we can. This is where I have another of my beloved Swedish Killam rugs. I'm obsessed, I love it. I love the green and the blue and the scale in here. This sofa is probably the most comfortable sofa I've ever sat on. It's a down velvet, huge sofa that is great for napping and relaxing. One of my favorite details in this space really is that you feel fully enveloped in color, and we gave it a lot of dimension by doing a flat paint on the walls and then going high gloss in all of the woodwork. And it just adds like a little glint and a shimmer when the light hits it, and you're allowed to sort of feel wrapped in color, but you're not sort of like overwhelmed by it, or it doesn't feel super flat when we added in that contrast of flat and high gloss. All of these things are just items that I have purchased or thrifted. Again, when I see something and I have just this visceral like, it needs to come home with me moment. And the way that I set up my mantle, it changes all of the time. This just so happens to be the one that I have up after the holidays. These two horses are meant to be door stoppers, so they're incredibly heavy. And I just love how regal and I don't know, just like I love that. I love a little bit of metallic in any space, and I love that they bring that in here. The warmth of this mirror, I love a medium tone wood, and I specifically loved these carvings, and I just really felt that this space, the green and having green on green, bringing in a natural element really livens everything up. I think green, goes with so many of the colors that you find in nature, so I think just having that rich brown was lovely. Always have to have a plant, and then this candelabra reminds me of like Beauty and the Beast. At any moment it might just sort of come to life. It's just got a lot of personality and is super fun. Everything's a little wonky in this house, and that's how I like it, you know? Everything's just like a little off skew. And I think that's kind of what makes it feel at home without sort of like, I don't know, being in your face. It's not like the house feels like it's like sinking or anything, but everything's just like a little off. Everything in my house, I always joke that whenever you come over, something that was in one room is now gonna be in another room and used in a completely different way. This is a tapestry that we had hanging in the kitchen vertically, and I didn't know what to do with this big long space. I'm still kind of looking for the right piece of art, but I love the idea of having, you know, something that is woven, something that is textural, and so I just went into the basement and grabbed this and just stuck it on the wall one day when I was feeling impulsive, and so it lives here now. And I think it's just like a good way of, I don't know, trying stuff out. If you don't know what's gonna go in that spot, like I don't know what's gonna go there yet. I like the scale. I know I like the pattern, and right now this works here. I love these English rollback chairs. This is where I do a lot of my reading, being in this little nook, this bay window with floor to ceiling windows. Sometimes it's hard to know what to do within that space. So these chairs, you know, it's just a great way to catch a lot of light. I love the view out this way too, so sometimes I just rotate the chairs and look outside. Our TV is somewhat hidden in this gallery wall. It's a frame. These are just a couple of my favorite pieces that I've collected over time. This is from an antique store. This is an original. Some impressions and thrift store finds. And I like the idea of the TV not being the focal point above the mantle. It works really well. It kind of blends in, but it still is really functional for like game day, you know, and cartoons in the morning. These are all of my favorite antiques. I think probably one of my most beloved things is this Dalmatian lamp. I can't tell you why, I find it delightful, and it's one of the things that I would grab if my house is burning down. Yeah, I think I bought it during the pandemic, and I was just really feeling, I think it was one of the first things I bought for this house, and I think it kind of had the irreverence and kind of playfulness that I felt while I was here. And so I love this lamp so much. This is actually a printed replica of an original from St. Frank, and it's so good. It really looks like it's actually woven. I love the pop of red theory, the idea that if you bring in just a tiny bit of red, it just sort of like creates this elevated, unexpected, kind of playful element to a space, and so this is the pop of red in this space. I think I have a little pop of red in every space, actually. So I love this print, I love the scale, I love the depth, I like that everything sort of feels really textural here. This is one of my favorite pieces that I found in an antique store. It has a secret drawer down here that isn't holding anything right now, but I will put treasures in here someday to hide from my children. But it's in just great condition, and this is I think it's a Victorian era type piece. This way, this is a cupboard from a kitchen that was reclaimed. I found at an architectural salvage store. I love it. It's crooked, it's wonky, but it has, you know, just all of my kids' toys. We just shove it away. Things don't have to be organized or anything like that, and the doors don't always close, but I love the warmth that it adds to the space, and that is really informal and feels cozy. I feel like the space behind our couch is a place where I'm still kind of playing around. I love having console tables behind sofas because one, you need a spot to put your coffee, and two, it's a great styling moment. So that's something that I am playing around with right now. The golden horse is, again, something I picked up at an antique store. I love horses. I don't know why. I think they're just impressive, regal, beautiful creatures. I love to have them around my house. Yeah, and I often will like put in dried flowers into that big urn. That's, again, one of those things I found at a thrift store that, you know, sometimes you find these things that have great size and scale and shape that are hard to find and, you know, retail today, and so I just grabbed it, and it always has a home in my house. Right now it happens to be in this room. So this color is not for everyone, and it changes a lot based on the time of day. And in the morning time, it feels really bright and springy, and at night it feels very like, I don't know, cozy and cooler. I think it's better in person, to be honest. I think the whole house is better in person than it looks actually when it's kind of lit up in camera. And I mean, and that's sometimes the point, I guess. So this is where our dog Winnie sleeps. This is the folding laundry chair. My husband like has to sit upright when he folds laundry, so we call it his folding laundry chair, so he can watch sports and fold laundry. That's Papa Joe's chair. This is just for throwing our feet up, and I love the size of these two pieces of artwork. I think, you know, if you're gonna go with a color that's this bold, bringing in elements that ground it and really give variance and kind of bring out all of the different tones was important, and those pieces were specifically selected for these two locations. So one of the few things that hasn't rotated out of here are these two pieces. Okay, let's go check out the sitting room. It's just this way. Welcome to the sitting room. This is one of the rooms in the house that people usually look up and go, what? Like, this is one of the rooms I'm talking about when I say that the house is sort of a Frankenstein house. There's just this lovely stained glass ceiling in the middle of the house. When we bought it, there was a piano in here. I imagine this was the music room. It is right off the dining room, and there's this great connection between the space. The dining room is a step down. So I imagine that people had dinner and maybe someone played music, and that was sort of how the evening went. We are not those people. I don't know how to play the piano, so we had to pay someone to move it. And now it's a sitting room. And we've tried a number of different layouts for this space. This is the one that works the best. We have a love seat and two chairs. These are beloved. I found them at an antique store, and they're, I think, 1960s Danish chairs that have been refurbished, and I love them. And it really is about conversation and hanging out. And our kids love to sit here and, you know, talk about what happened after school. We play chess. I serve cocktails in here, and it feels very civilized. And we enjoy the view. This is our chessboard. My kids are in chess club at their school, and it is one way that, I don't know, I think it's a great way to figure out how to talk to them about what happened in school without really like I don't know, asking them a million questions. I like to beat them at chess. I still can right now, but my days are numbered. So yeah, we like to just kind of crouch down here, play some chess. Oftentimes when we're having friends over for dinner, we'll have cocktails in here. One of my favorite views of the house is like this moment right here. I feel like it's my personality and style in a moment. This is a Gail Albert Holleben print that I purchased from a local gallery, and it's of Venice, and I love it so much. There are these moments happening within the still life, so there's always something to kind of discover within the print. Her work is incredible. This piece right here is also beloved. I found this at an architectural salvage place, and I fell in love with the scallops. It's wonky, I have to fix it often, but it holds a lot of my absolute favorite things. I got these French coupe glasses for Christmas. I just love, like, you know, the bulbous shape of this really cute picture. I can't remember, I know that these were made in the 60s and the 70s. All different sorts of little coupes and things to serve drinks in, toothpicks and some books on making drinks. So this is just one of my absolute favorite pieces. And it's got so much personality, and I think there's markings in here from the builder who made it, and it makes me really happy. I love a juxtaposition that clashes. I think it makes sense to me because there's tension between those two things. And in a room like this, it works because we have a really ornate ceiling, but we have a white box to work within, and so all of the traditional elements serve as sort of this grounding space for other more modern elements to come in little pops. And that's really what the chairs do and the lights do and the coffee table does. And so it was a moment in this house where I was really able to, I think, enhance that juxtaposition, where in some of these other rooms they lean a bit more traditional or a bit more modern. This is the room where I think they all come together, and I love that it's in the center of the home. My daughter, when we first moved in, called them Mickey Mouse ears, and I cannot unsee them, and now you won't be able to either. I think this was very traditional of the 1950s, like rambler style molding, and they were everywhere. I actually took a couple of them down, and it was a little bit too much, especially once you see Mickey Mouse everywhere. But I love how they punctuate the more formal spaces, and I think they have a nice moment here. The lighting in this space in the dining room, this existed. I added some of the lampshades just to add a bit more texture and a bit more contrast. I love a contrasting piping, but that's really all that we did here. This originally had this hand-painted silvery wallpaper and like a teal color, like a light teal molding, and I really liked the idea of letting just one element sing, and that was the chandelier and the stained glass ceiling. So we painted it a creamy, just off-white white, and I think it really does that. It lets those elements shine. How I would describe my sense of style, I think it's like an amalgamation of words and feelings. Comfort and warmth, I think, is like the number one thing that people say they feel when they come into my house. Classic, I really do love traditional elements of architecture and furniture. And then like a little weird, a little zany. I'm always kind of bringing in something that is modern or is gonna kind of like mix things up. So I would say it's a mix. It's like the Kate mix. And I'm always really happy when people walk in and just sort of, you can see they feel relaxed and like nothing's too precious here, and that they can stay and kick off their shoes and really feel at home. Welcome to the dining room. We call it the peach room for obvious reasons. I love this space so much. It was probably the room that sold us on the house, to be honest. The view, the ceiling height, the floors, the color, everything about it just, I mean, it was like my dream room. It is my dream room. It works really well as a dining room. That's originally how it was designed. We, for a long time, had this as a living room and just found that it didn't really feel right. We weren't using it in the right way. And one of the things I love more than anything is to host. And when I realized that that's what this space was really wanting to be, we redesigned the space to really be that. And I think it sings this way. I want to show you one of my favorite things about the room, and that is that these are china cabinets for plates and things, which is just like, I mean, that's how you know it's meant to be. Like, this was meant to be a dining room. It's got enough room for like a really big table, and it makes me so happy. This fireplace, when we got here, it wasn't working. So we put in a gas insert just for ease, and we love it. I will often sit at this table and flip through cookbooks or meal plan or write or things like that, and I'll have the fire going, and it's just a nice change of pace to come here and enjoy the view and the color and just the grandness of the space. It's really beautiful. This piece of artwork is one of my absolute favorite things that I own. It's a painting that was done by artist Paolo Ventura during the beginning of the pandemic. The date up there, 4/3/2020. He is based in Italy and painted this when the pandemic was just ravaging northern Italy. And he painted just inanimate, everyday objects that he found in his house. And we bought it, I think a year after the series was done, and just loved how it worked with the colors in this space. This paint color was here when we moved in. I definitely thought I was going to paint it, and the day that we were bringing all of our pieces in here, I was sitting on a couch and I was like, I absolutely cannot paint this. Like, I have to keep it. This room is an example of letting the house and the previous homeowners really influence the design decisions we made. We loved this room and realized that removing the paint color and the chandeliers would really just change the feeling of it in general. It's not necessarily us, but we've brought in our own personality to what was already existing. So the paint color was here, the chandeliers were here, the sconces were here, and we really just brought in furniture that doesn't skew too formal, doesn't skew too traditional. In fact, I thrifted these chairs. They're from from a Thai restaurant that went out of business, and painted them a fun blue and recovered them. And this table is secondhand, and the artwork is kind of a mismatch of all different styles, and I think that really that's us, you know. It takes the sort of formality of this room and makes it feel really approachable and comfortable and creates a really fun dining experience. What type of host am I? I am a like celebrate the little stuff kind of host. I'll say come on over for soup, or I made a big thing of braised pork belly, like whoever's available in the neighborhood, come on over and we can, you know, just chow down. I love to put love into the food, into the ambiance, and cooking is a creative outlet for me. So to be able to share that with people, this space really allows me to do that in a way that is really easy. And I think too, it creates community, especially within our neighborhood. I love the idea that I can host here and it's pretty easy for us to have, you know, 3 other couples over. It feels like that's one of those like dream come true type things about the house that I'm able to do. My ride or die tip for hosting is to make things that you know are good and that you are really comfortable cooking. Like, do not cook something new, try something new, do not put too much pressure on yourself. You know, I think that that's the biggest tip I have. And I don't know, to not overdo it. Like, I think like a great pot of soup is like totally dinner party worthy. And so I think a lot of people kind of like put the pressure on the menu, or sort of like I have to like create something that's really like dinner party worthy. And I don't know, I think just being yourself, doing the things that you know how to do well is really the ultimate like tip for hosting a party that people really enjoy being at. As I mentioned before, I love artwork, and this is where we have a gallery wall. It's a big space that we had left blank for a really long time, and we didn't necessarily purchase any of these pieces for this space. It was something that I just looked at what we had and kind of curated something that felt like it had a nice sort of scale and movement and variety within it. I love texture. I love things that don't necessarily feel all of the same medium. And so you have this beautiful grass necklace that's been framed. This is printed on linen. I got that at an antique store. I love paintings that people like give away at thrift stores. Some of them can be really fun. So these are, I think, paintings that people have done. I think they've been like kind of dubbed amateur work, but I love them. This is a Picasso print. I've got a few original pieces that I've collected over time. I would say that each one of these things I individually love, and I think sometimes we overthink how we curate gallery walls. Like, they all have to sort of feel like they match, or there's just sort of like this right amount of like tonality or size and scale that goes with it. But I really do think that if you put the things together that you love, they often kind of hang together in a way. So I try to have a bit more of a loose grip on the way that I throw together gallery walls, and I think this is a good example of that. This console table used to live in there. It's not the right size or scale, but it works for putting dishes down. You know, we've lived in this house a couple of years, but so much of designing a home and curating a home was about knowing how you're going to use it. And so having all of these pieces that have lived in different rooms, putting them where we know we need to use them, has been a really great way of just figuring out how to utilize the house as best as possible. So this is actually a sofa table that I have standing in as a console table. Eventually I'd love to have a buffet where I have a bit more storage. But here I love it. I think it's like, it's got this really fun texture and print, and it really just is here to flank the gallery wall and to put wine and food on when we have a dinner party. I would love to show you the kitchen next, so come with me. What I think makes a home come alive is when the people inside it are really expressing themselves. For me, it's all about artifacts and seeing someone in a space. The homes that really influenced me as a kid were ones where you could tell that the people inside just did a lot of different things. My grandmother's house was full of furniture that they collected from the 60s, and fossils and books and whatever they were interested in at the time, and the line between decor and hobbies was really blurred. And to me, that is the soul of a home. It's almost like the objects themselves they hold the energy of the person. And I don't know, I think sometimes you walk into space and you just sort of feel that it's more alive and more like the person inside, and I think that's a really special moment. And I think all spaces really have it. I think some people are more in tune with what that means than others. So this is the kitchen. It's a pretty unique shape. So you're only seeing one portion of it right now, and this is what I call my portion, which is where most of the cooking is done. It is bigger than it looks. I have had 6 other girlfriends in here and we have cooked an elaborate meal. But what I love about this is that it is a really contained, creative, beautiful space. I mean, the views are amazing and it's really bright, and it is my creative space in the house. I love to cook, and this is, I don't know, I feel like it gives me a place to do that is often away from the chaos of family life. The people in my neighborhood, what my signature dish would be, I would say it's a pork Wellington, and the only reason why is I had to make it for a photo shoot, and I made 3 of them, and they all came over and ate them because I was practicing. But I think I'm just sort of known for throwing together a spread. It's usually bold with flavor, and what did I make? What did I make last week? I made this really great sweet potato soup with what I had left in my fridge. It had apples in it and fresh ginger and cumin and turmeric, and it was just sort of an amalgamation of what I had, and then I blended it all together and it was really lovely and smooth. So yeah, I would say that it's always an adventure. This space is really special to me because it was design-wise a really big departure from the rest of the house. All of this woodwork was originally here. It was a very, I don't know, it felt almost Japanese inspired, the way that this kitchen was put together in the original footprint of the house. And I wanted to keep that, but I don't make it more me, and also kind of bridge the gap between the rest of the house and this space. So how I did that was find materials that felt pretty traditional and that felt really bold, that worked really well with the modern warmth of the oak wood. And I did that really through a big design element, which is this marble. It's leathered, which means it has this really great texture. It's a Rosa Calcutta, so it's got all of these beautiful shades of violet, but it also has salmon coming through. There's actually a little bit of aqua here. And the slab itself just really reminded me of the expression of the house itself. So the stone was the way that I connected the two different vibes of these spaces and tried to make them feel like us. The layout is really interesting. The kitchen is in an L shape, and so this is really the creation space. We have the range and the running water and all of my utensils and cooking equipment, along with our fridge. And then when you come this way, our coffee bar, wine fridge, pantry, and I delineated those two spaces with different color cabinetry that felt like they, were both unique but also kind of fit together nicely. And so yeah, the space was a challenge to design around. We also knew, and I still have a question mark around what the footprint of the house will look like when we tackle bedrooms and bathrooms, which are areas that we haven't renovated yet. And there's this thought that the layout of the kitchen could eventually change in 5 years. So this space was really about how can we make the space usable and enjoyable to cook in and feel like us without, blowing the budget on a brand new kitchen. And so this is what we came up with. This is one of those moments in the house where it's all of my favorite things. I think my kids would say this is the one area not to mess around with. I have my favorite things here. So this is a Swan Tureen that I love. This is it's a super magnum wine from a dinner party that I hosted Friendsgiving last year. One of my favorite ceramic artists is Ginny Sims. She's local, and I have a picture from her and a number of teacups, or they're not teacups, they're just massive mugs that I adore. We do have a lot of tea and coffee in our house, so this is really where it all happens. And I love to have variety. I just want to be able to pick what I want when I want it. So that's what this space is really all about. So light fixtures are where I like to amp up the modernity, or the juxtaposition that we talked about in the sitting room. This light fixture right over here is the dancing light pendant, and it's made out of felt. And I loved the idea of doing something really large in scale, but also bring some warmth into the space. It is great for acoustics, and it also just is like really visually beautiful. And so that was one of the things that I picked out first. Other people have lovingly called it the coffee filter light, which I can see, but it's huge. I mean, I would say it's probably, you know, this is a foot, it's probably 2.5 feet wide. And there are moments, I think, in houses where scale really, you need it when it comes to lighting, and this was one of those moments. When you move into an older home and you're not gutting the whole thing, sometimes you end up with spaces like this. This is like a little sunroom on the floor plan when we moved in, and it's, you know, 3 feet wide, but sitting here is lovely. So there's a chair there now. And I would say that my daughter sits there every morning. I sit there and have coffee, and it's just sort of this like odd little spot. And it's right next to where we do all of our homework and breakfasts and coloring, and this is our workshop table kind of. And I usually have to sand it down to get it clean because there's all sorts of crayons and markers and things on it, but that's just, you know, part of life. Where I look for inspiration is really, I think it's been places that I've traveled in my life. It's also been spaces and experiences, I think, where I have had sort of like all of my senses enveloped. So it's usually been like, I mean, I like to think of like hotels and restaurants are a really good example of feeling inspired because all of your senses are really immersed in those experiences. You know, I recently took a trip to the French Alps with my husband. You know, I think it's a kind of about being around the architecture and also the sense of place and sort of seeing how those things combine, I think is the greatest source of inspiration. What I love about that is it really teaches you to look at what you have and where your home is located and maybe make design decisions and choices where your personal style and your home intersect. And personal style to me isn't really formulaic. I think it's more about a set of values and knowing who you are and letting whatever period you are in your life, whatever your budget is, wherever your home is, those are the conditions that bring about a unique expression of your personal style. And so I think I've been really drawn to places that are a unique expression of a place, you know, going to hotels in Chamonix that felt just so true to the place. That type of authenticity, I think, really inspired me to come home and look at, I think, my own home and think about what is, you know, my unique expression of a home in Minnesota look like. The other thing I feel like really inspires me, I think, to understand my own personal style too, is just watching films that are really visually beautiful. The last one I watched, it's a thriller from the early 2000s, but it's called Birth, and it's with Nicole Kidman, and it's a very, you know, kind of strange sci-fi thriller movie, but the apartment inside and the clothing, I mean, it all just sort of, to me, those things really just jump out at me as much as the stories do. Here we are in my office. I love books. This is where I have my collection of design books, all of my cookbooks, the books that I love. I feel like I love to be around them. And so to be able to have an office with built-in bookshelves like this is, you know, again, one of the reasons when we walked through this house, we knew it was the right one for us. These were here when we moved in. We painted them. They were a bright pink color. I love the offset knobs. They're just quirky and fun. I have a record player right here, which I'll put on sometimes. This is my reading chair. And yeah, there's nothing about this space that's like finished or designed. I think I like a tidy office, but I also like places where it's like you can be creative. And the fluidity of this space is that it's about, I don't know, just kind of sinking into work. And so there's usually books piled up and work everywhere. My desk is never this clean. But this is really where I get creative. Most mornings I do writing from here. I like to read in this chair. This is where I spend most of my time. I love this wallpaper. It is like being wrapped in a field of flowers. It's on the ceiling. I love the texture. I love that it feels just, you know, like it almost feels like there's a lot of movement coming from these. And yeah, it was one of the first selects we made for the house was this wallpaper. And I remember when I was selecting it, I was gonna go with something a little bit more traditional. There was like a toile that was here before. And what I liked about this is that it felt like it had like the texture and the richness and the layering and the depth that this house needed, but it also felt decidedly modern too. And that's why we picked it. I haven't decided what to do with it. Again, this is just like a little bit of my collection. I had thought that I would put it up, and I got a little commitment phobic. There's also a hallway into the bedrooms that is right now empty, and I thought maybe I would do a gallery wall there. But yeah, this is just kind of in like things that I've collected over time. Some of these are my artwork. Some of these are my daughter's antiques, and they all together they work. So I don't know where they're gonna go yet. I have, just like in this corner over here, you know, little things that my kids have made. I love rocks, and so do my kids. So I've got some crystals here. My daughter made Valentines, and I thought this was just hilarious. So I kept this one. It looks like a Comme des Garçons. Like, it's just hilarious to me. So anything that really like is delightful to me. This is from our trip to Switzerland. You know, little clay things that my kids have created. I was a graphic designer for a long time in my life, and so when I find packaging that I love, I still often will buy it. That's an example here. I also love to take up hobbies that I have like no time for and like, you know, kind of half-heartedly attempt. And that's why I have this guitar. I started like right before the pandemic and really intend to get back into it. I have to cut my nails in order to do that. So now it's sitting there just to remind me that I need to get back into it. Yeah, and then just like my cookbooks, they're like well loved, and you know, there's all sorts of things that have come out of these. I think my favorite thing to do in here is just like, I love to read cookbooks. Like in bed, I'll just I read them like books. Yeah, and so the new one that I got that I'm absolutely obsessed with is Julius Roberts. He's this British chef that moved to the countryside and is, you know, tending his own animals, and this is just about that experience and what he cooks there. And I just was like curled up reading this over the weekend. What I love most about our home is the location and probably the views. It's just a one-story house, but we live right on the Mississippi River, and there's a bluff outside the front and a walking trail, and we've got a beautiful backyard. And to me, there's this beauty of like what's happening on the inside and the outside. It's always changing. In the summer, it's very lush. You know, in the winter when there's snow on the ground, all the colors on the inside really pop. And that's what I love the most about it, the way that the inside and the outside really relate to one another. So here we are in the primary bedroom. I love this space so much. The green color was here when we moved in, but they had sponge painted the walls, sort of this like drab brown color. And one of my favorite wallpapers that I had collected from years before we moved into this house happened to be the perfect match to the molding that already existed in this space. So we just went with it and put it up. I did not ask my husband if he was okay with pink birds. He's not complained. But I think it's, again, like you just feel really relaxed when you come in here. We have huge windows that look out onto the walking path, and in the winter you can see the Mississippi River. And it's just lovely and relaxing, and that's what bedrooms should be. I love these. They were here. We decided not to paint them instead of deeper wood, and they've got this great locking system that you know, allow for, you know, floor to ceiling windows to be pretty safe and secure. I love a graphic shape, and you know, just the way that oftentimes modern pieces can bring in like visual interest to a space. And so when I saw this bed frame, I instantly really loved it. I also loved the idea of bringing in a mustard color to bring out some of the colors in the birds in this space. And so that's really what the whole scheme was for this, is really bringing out those golden elements in the bed frame and in the bedding. And yeah, it's just like a great place to rest your head at night. I love this light fixture. I found this at front gate, and I had my eyes set on this Sloan like shell fixture that was, it cost probably as much as like all of the furniture in like multiple rooms combined. So I basically found the look of that for this, and my kids like to throw things in it. I think I found like a football and multiple Easter eggs in here when I was dusting the other day. But I love the texture that it adds, the natural elements in a space. So our bedside tables, I found them from the same vendor that I found the Victorian dresser in the green room. And I had a dresser like this growing up with these black knobs. Like one of my childhood memories was like twirling and playing with these as a kid. So when I saw them, I had sort of this visceral reaction to them. And I just really think that old pieces of furniture that are, you know, made out of wood, just, I don't know why you would buy them new. I mean, you absolutely can. And in this case, I have like a very old dresser with a very new dresser, and I love the way that they look together. But there's something about these like old antiques and, you know, the knobs that they're so nostalgic for me. I really love them in these spaces. The word home to me means that I can be fully myself in all of the ways. I can be here and feel totally held when things are not going okay, and I can have the most joyous celebratory dinner party for my friends when things are amazing, and to have a place that you feel held and fully expressed. You know, we are all whole people, but oftentimes the world kind of doesn't feel like that always. And when we're home, you know, that's the one place where we can really come back to ourselves and feel like it's really okay to be fully human. And that's what home means to me.
Today on Homeworthy, we're visiting former photographer Katie DeGroot's charming Victorian home in Stillwater, Minnesota. As a mom of 4 with a passion for antiques and thrifting, she has infused her space with mementos of her children and collected pieces of art that feel warm and welcoming. Enjoy this special episode. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi Homeworthy, my name is Katie. Welcome to my home in charming Stillwater, Minnesota, and this is little Penny. Welcome to my entryway. It's a pretty narrow space, but it's really beautiful. There's a couple of historical pieces of charm that I really love in this space. It's just tall ceilings, and then we keep the majority of our coats and outdoor gear in this little spot under our stairs that I'll show you. I recently revamped this area. It wasn't really working for our large family, but I've added some lower hooks for my kids, and right now it's beautiful outside, so we've just got our sun hats and rain boots, but I really enjoyed making this space a little bit more me. I was super inspired by, as always, English country style really inspires me, so I was looking at all of those built-in beautiful mudrooms that they do over there, and I wanted to emulate something similar for our home here. So I'm very happy with the way this space turned out. My grandma actually, she gave that painting to my aunt, and then my aunt passed it down to me, and she had it hanging in a similar spot in her home, and I love having it in our house. I recently added a collage wall of family photos. I just converted them to black and white and wanted to just have lots of fun memories. My boys in the snow, and then some family photos we had taken this fall, and then my baby's newborn session. Just loving using some newer frames and also some antique frames as well. Okay, and you can see that we still have our original old doors. Our doorknob is actually broken right now, but we'll get that fixed at some point. I really love all the light that comes in here, and I think our dog might be running downstairs, so he might come say hi. This is our dog, Astro. He is 100% German Shepherd. And one thing I always tell people is that Victorians used to call the German Shepherds nanny dogs, and I think it's funny that we have these 4 kids and we have this big German Shepherd. So come with me into the living room. This is where we spend a lot of our time as a family, and it is sort of like a playroom too. I try to hide my kids' toys in these old wooden boxes I find at antique stores, and we love our fireplace, have a family portrait that was taken recently above that, which I really love. So the sconces actually came with the house. The previous owners put them in, but we love them because we love candlelight. And I actually have a candle sconce on the other side that I'll show you too. This one we just found at an antique store. Sometimes we light it, but this picture actually, I did want to talk about this. My husband got that for me for Christmas a couple years ago. It's by a photographer out of New Orleans named Frank Relly, and I stumbled upon his gallery a couple years ago in the French Quarter. We love New Orleans, and I'm very inspired by New Orleans art and culture, and so of course I had to have this beautiful old church photo in our house, and I just absolutely love it. I would say that my husband, Seth, and I are both very inspired by vintage revival, and particularly English country, and then obviously Victorian style, because this is a Victorian home. I'm really drawn to, like a muted color palette personally, and I love a lot of texture. So you'll see that evident in our space. This room is definitely one that I'd like to work on a little bit more, but I love that it, suits our purpose as a family, and we spend so much time in here, especially around the fireplace during the colder months. We just love to be in here together. And at Christmas time, we usually put up our tree here or in front of the bay window, and it's just really lovely. So my husband's had that map for a long, long time. We actually lived in a modern kind of condo loft before we moved here. And this was one of the pieces that still worked with this space. And our kids love to point out where we live on there. I just really like the texture and the text in it. This is actually one of my favorite photos that I've taken of my daughter. They're a couple years apart. Every Christmas, I've taken a photo of her on the porch with Christmas presents, and I just love them. And even though it's not Christmas time, I still have them up year round because I just think that they're really sweet. And I've been collecting these vintage jugs and filling them with dried hydrangeas from our yard. I think they just add a lot of texture. I really like dried flowers, especially because in the winter months here, our winters can get so long, and I really enjoy having just, flowers of some sort. So even if I can't get fresh, I always have my dried hydrangeas and can look forward to spring. So it's super easy to dry hydrangeas. You just cut them, and then you can go ahead and place them into a vase that's empty, and they will dry. I know there's different methods, but that's always what I have done. And I think they're really lovely because you'll get all this sort of gradient color, and it's just such incredible texture. They are quite brittle and fragile though. So my kids have gotten into them and made a mess before, but I really do love the way that they look and the texture that they bring. We found these in a shop in the French Quarter, and yep, we knew they had to be here in our house. So I love them. They're very comfortable, and we've had them for a couple of years. They're just brown leather. I have found that with kids, leather is a good texture, good fabric to have because you can wipe it up, and even as they've aged, I feel like they look really beautiful, and I like the detail and the carving on the backs of them. I think the windows in here, and it's a rainy day today, I always say that this house feels like a jewel box when it rains. And these beautiful bay windows just sing to me. I just think they're absolutely gorgeous. And I love how they let so much light in, but you can also see the rain. Some of the panes are quite a bit older and they have that really beautiful leaded glass look to them. I really appreciate the light that they cast in our home. So this one is a wedding portrait that was taken when Seth and I got married. And then down here is a portrait of our oldest when she was a little bit younger at our favorite place, which is a local apple orchard. We were picking apples and I caught that picture and I just have been obsessed with it ever since. And over here, we've got my husband, another wedding portrait. We actually got married in a historic church too. So we love the old style. And then this is our oldest back when he was a baby. And we need to get 2 more oval frames so we can update and have all 4 of our kids on the walls. But sometimes when you're the oldest kid in a family, you get to have all of your pictures up. This is our formal dining room, and this is actually the only room that works for us if we all want to sit together and eat. So we do spend quite a bit of time in here, and I love it. This room gets fabulous light. The table came with the house, but the chairs actually belong to my mom, and I have enjoyed using them and having them in my home. I love our little gingham cushions right now. We have a family piece in here. This hutch was actually handed down to us from my husband's grandmother's side of the family. And I think it dates to the 1920s, maybe the 1930s, but we are so happy to have this. It houses all of our dishes. I've kind of been collecting brown transferware. You can find it pretty easily at antique shops here. So this is my newest piece and I love this. I love the detail inside. I think that's just so beautiful. And I'd like to collect more, but we love this hutch because it's just so practical. I keep candles up here and napkins here and tablecloths in the bottom. I have found that a lot of vintage and antique pieces are just incredibly practical and very useful. And so I enjoy using them and having them in my home. Of course, I've got my dried hydrangeas in pitchers. This pitcher actually belonged to my husband's maternal grandmother. She was a farmer and she would make coffee in this every day for her farm hands. And if you look inside, the inside is stained brown from all the coffee on her Minnesota farm. So I love having that in our house. I think it's just a nod to her. And we've got some more photos up here. I don't know why, but we loved this random buffalo taxidermy picture that our photographer took at our engagement session. And so we needed to put it in a frame. I don't even have a reason, we just love it. Another wedding portrait. And then this was taken by a very good friend of mine, a photographer here, Abby Jean Photography, when we had our second in 2020. So old chairs, and I am obsessed with candles and candlesticks. And I also find a lot of great antiques on eBay. I feel like everybody forgot about eBay but me. So I'm on there too much, and I really enjoy finding if I've got like a very specific thing in mind. Of course, I have an old high chair. I found this on Marketplace, and the woman who sold it to me was so happy to share with me that it had all this family history. It was used in her family and passed down, so we enjoy using it, of course, with supervision because it's older. My husband found this old radio, I think on First Dibs, and what's great about this is you can actually plug it into a smartphone, so we're able to play music from our playlist on it, which is really neat and kind of a fun trick. We listen exclusively to 90s music, so 90s hip hop, R&B, we listen to 90s rock. We love the 90s, so that's what we listen to. We also listen to jazz and classical too, so we're not always rocking 90s. This picture actually I took, so I'm a former photographer. Now I'm a full-time stay-at-home mother, but I took this at one of our favorite places. I think I mentioned earlier in the living room, this local apple orchard. My kids actually call it Apple Church, which I think is so cute. And I inherited this old frame from my grandmother. So I don't remember what was in here originally, but I knew I wanted to put this in our dining room, and I love that we have this photo up of the apple orchard because it's such a special place for us and for our family. This is our bar. So yeah, I mean, it's a little early for a drink, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yep, and actually in here you'll notice a photo of James Castle. He is the gentleman who built this house. He came from New York and he became a state senator for Minnesota. And yeah, we love having his photo here, and I always think that he's smiling down at us. But yeah, this is our bar. We love to have dinner parties. We love to have friends over. We love to have barbecues and, you know, hosting girlfriends or other families from church. We love it. And my husband's a great bartender. He makes a great martini for me, and then he makes a fantastic Manhattan for himself. I did paint in this room. I love the color of the walls. I describe it as like a color of a latte. And it's Benjamin Moore creek bed, and I think it looks really nice with the white beadboard and trim. I really love these plates that I have found while thrifting. I needed something for this spot, and I felt like a plate wall was the answer. So I actually found these platters at Goodwill, but then the plates were all thrifted, and I may add some more at some point. I just love that layered vintage look. I'm really inspired by that. I love history. I was a history minor in college. I love the practicality and the beauty of older things. I feel like a lot of new design is very, frankly, just like unattractive to me. So I enjoy older things, and also the cost. I mean, you can often find, at least here in the Midwest, items on Marketplace or at the thrift store or garage sales, especially now that it's summer. You can find things at garage sales for very little money. And I just really believe you don't need to spend thousands of dollars on decor. I feel like you can make a home out of really simple, beautiful, thrifted and found items. You just have to be patient. Home takes time. And so that's the hard part for me, because I'm not patient at all, but I do believe in a good thrift find. And I just find that with an older home, the older pieces, I think just fit, and it's more appropriate. Well, come with me into the kitchen, obviously the heart of every home. This kitchen gets a lot of use. My husband and I both love to cook, and I enjoy baking, and my kids like to help me, so they use this tower, and I just put it up at the counter and they help me. So I enjoy these windows that look out onto our side yard. And I will say, it's a little bit of a narrow kitchen, and I get frustrated sometimes because I feel like with 4 children, I don't have enough space to cook, but it's working for us for now. I like our built-in stove, and I have this little baking area right here. I've been into collecting Crocs, so I find these Crocs at, again, thrift stores, I'm telling you. And I just love being able to store all of my wooden utensils in them. And then recently I found this salt box. I love that there's a windmill on it. I've been saying that I'm in my windmill era. And I just keep whatever in there. I don't keep salt in there, but I love the look of that. I love brown and white transferware, obviously, but I also love blue and white transferware. I just think it's so beautiful. So I had that, and I added these hooks about a year ago, just because I wanted something that was more practical for, you know, easy. I'm always needing scissors or my all-purpose spray, and I actually usually make this myself, or I will use like a Young Living product, and so it's low tox for my family, because I'm trying to be low tox for the family. But I love that it's easy to grab right there. When we saw this house, we knew within minutes. We hadn't even finished the tour that we wanted to make an offer. And like I said before, we were living in a modern condo loft, and so we sold almost all of our furniture because it didn't fit with this home. And so when we moved in, we had hardly any furniture, and so we've been bringing in pieces, either pieces that were here that the previous owner sold to us, or pieces that fit us. But I will say the kitchen, especially with its very tall cabinets, did draw me in. And I love this piece. My husband found this painting, And it just makes me smile because it reminds me of cooking with my dad growing up, and just the fish and the lemons and the cherry tomatoes and the beautiful salt and the wine. And I would say for us, hospitality and hosting is really critical. And so, of course, when we have guests over, they're obviously in the living room and dining room, but we always will gather in here. I feel like everyone ends up in the kitchen. We have a little cast iron collection. My husband's quite an outdoorsman, and he likes to bring those when he's hunting and fishing. And over the years, we've just added more pieces. This is our newest, largest, and I just have to say, just get yourself a big cast iron and it'll make you really happy. And you can cook anything on cast iron. It's fantastic. I love it. And that's a great little spot for it. So my kids will use this tower, and when they're helping me, I just usually set it up right here, and they can be my little sous chefs. And we have other stools too that they help me with, but I enjoy baking. So I often will have sourdough starter on the counter, and I'll be working on bread. During the holiday season, I love to do cookies and bars, of course, because we're in Minnesota. And of course, every day I'm cooking. I mean, that's mom life, right? So I'm really grateful for this space, because even though it's maybe not as large as I would want, and it's certainly not as large as like newer kitchens, you'll see these like huge kitchens, it still serves a purpose. And I feel like there's a lot of beauty here. I like have my little windowsill and having little reminders, like my candles and my cross up there I really love. And I try to have fresh flowers too, because that's helpful when you're in a space often. And I will show you my pantry, which surprised me when we first moved in. I looked at this door and I thought, oh, I just thought it was pushed back. And no, it's an actual pantry, which isn't super organized, but we do the best that we can. So, and I keep kids' papers and whatnot over here because it's easy. So I'm grateful for that space. Let's head upstairs. I'm first gonna take you into our boys' room that's right off the stairs. This is where my sons sleep. I love this space. So we have two little boys. They're 14 months apart. They're 3 and 2 right now. My 2-year-old's still in a crib, but we're getting ready to transition him. And then we have these 2 twin beds. I love these. They came with the house. And I am in my vintage quilt era. So I found this seller on Marketplace who had all these beautiful old quilts, and I feel like every bed needs a quilt. This is a philosophy of mine. And so I found this one, which is called Irish Chain, and then this particular design is called Crown of Thorns. And I love to do layer texture, lots of pillows, duvets. I just feel like you gotta have a cozy bed. So that's these 2. And I found this really sweet footstool at a local antique shop called Midtown Antiques here in Stillwater. I love it. And this has just been perfect because right now I've got my older son in here, and then we'll move it over when we move my younger son into this bed. My husband actually made that cabinet in shop class in high school, and he was saving it, had it in storage. And when we moved in here, he said, this is the perfect spot, and I love it. So we've got that filled with just some family photos and old wooden toys. A friend of mine actually made those silhouettes of the boys, my oldest one on the right when he was a baby, and then my 2-year-old. I feel like age 2 is perfect to do a silhouette because they still have that baby profile to them. It's very sweet. And then last year, I feel like pleated lampshades were all the rage, and I love them. And I kept seeing them on Etsy for, $200. And then I went to this thrift store and I bought mine for, I think, 50 cents or something. And the lady even gave me the light bulb that goes in there. So I laugh about that when I see these trends that get really expensive. I'm like, everyone just needs to come to the Midwest where stuff is cheap. So these antlers belong to my husband. We just added them. And I love just the color drenching of the walls in here. This color is called Dutch Tile Blue by Sherwin-Williams. I believe it's their historic line. They have a historic line, and I have been very happy with their paint. And then over here, I love this piece. This is actually just from Target, honestly, but this is a reproduction of a classic piece called The Grateful Poor, and it reminds me so much of the Daily Bread painting that people seem to really love right now, of the old man praying, but this really spoke to me and to my heritage, so I had to add it to our home. I love it. My son enjoys it too, who sleeps in this crib. Over here is their dresser, and this I also found on Marketplace, and the woman who sold that to me shared with me that it had been passed down in her family and originally purchased in Chicago. And then this obnoxious goose lamp just cracks me up. I don't know why. I just think it's just so funny and silly. My boys love it. They get a kick out of it. So we've got that against that beautiful old etching picture, which I've had up here for a little while. I just think it's really peaceful. And over here I have little shelves, and I've got these samplers of my sons that have their birthday details, and then just some photos of when I was expecting our second, and then I love that photo of my second eating a peach. He just cracks me up. And then my little brother's down there, and then a newborn session of when my second son was born. And I really wanted, our painter painted the shelves too, because I wanted it to feel very much like a built-in, color-drenched, even our radiator. I love that style right now. And with our, just very simple linen curtain panels, I just thought it would be like an elegant and peaceful space. I would say for me, peaceful is always the vibe that I'm going for. And I have to share this with you too, because this is so cute. I mean, hello. The Timberwolves are doing very well right now. So we have to have a basketball, over the door basketball hoop in every little boy's room. So I love how that looks, even though it's not part of the vintage aesthetic. It's perfect for my sons. Yeah, so this crib is actually new, but it looks vintage. And with cribs, I love the look of vintage cribs, but I'm just personally not comfortable using them. So I always get new cribs for my babies. But it's iron and it's gorgeous. My in-laws got it for us when we were expecting our first. And so it's worked really well for our family, but I'll be sad when we have to pack it away and take it down. This is my oldest daughter's bedroom. So she gets her own room because she's the queen of the family. We have two queens, my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter, but they get their own rooms. But we have two beds in here because she likes to have a spot for when grandma comes to visit. We love this space. It definitely has been challenging to decorate in here because of the size, but I have found a way, I think, to make it cozy. So added printed curtains, which was definitely a big move for me as a neutral girly, but I like these and I think they look really sweet in the space. I did color drenching on the walls in here too, because I wanted, again, that really beautiful saturated, very just sort of like almost neutral flat color application. And I love the way it turned out. These beds we actually, again, found at Marketplace, and we plan to sand them down. But like with the boys, I really enjoy doing layers for bedding. So we've got these quilts, which are actually new, but the duvet covers I found on eBay. So they're Rachel Asheville Shabby Chic for Target, which was the first like home decor design brand I remember really loving. Back when I was in college, I've always been drawn to vintage revival style and like Laura Ashley and Victorian magazine as a kid. Old Ralph Lauren too from the 90s is just like chef's kiss perfection. But I also loved this Rachel Asheville line. And so when I found these on eBay, I was so happy to have them for my daughter's bedroom. And these pictures actually came from a friend of mine from college. Her mom had them in their home for many, many years. And they're just old Currier and Ives prints. We've got a spring and an autumn, which I think is so sweet. And those colors, I do feel really are prevalent in this bedroom. Recently, we found this dresser. It's an antique dresser, but it was purchased at a shop where they had done all of the work to it. And then I had this hook and shelf made just on Etsy and had that painted as well. And I love just changing it up. It's just a nice space to display things. I actually made this quilt for my daughter when she was a baby. During the pandemic, I took just this is all vintage fabric, and it's not perfect, and a more, skilled quilter would look at this and say, not great, but I was really proud to make it for her, and I embroidered a little note on it too. Let's see if I can find that, a little heart. It says, "Love Mama, January of 2020. So I made that for her, and I usually hang that up there because I just love it, and I'm proud of that. And I have not made any quilts for any of my other kids, but I'll get there. This piece is really special. So this is called I believe it's called a chifforobe. These old armoires, cabinets, I just think they're, again, so practical. So my daughter keeps her dress up clothes in here and then all kinds of stuff in the drawers. But I love the mirror, and we've got all of our old Beatrix Potter, and I have another photo of her that I'll take down and show you. This was taken again at our favorite apple orchard. This is from our last family session, and I love it. I'm also into collecting for my kids these like little wooden animals. I just think they're really sweet. So we've got that up here. And then this book was actually mine when I was little, and I remember loving the illustrations. It's called The Book of Wishes and Wishmaking, but it was part of an old library. And the funny thing is, it says Worthington Public Library in Worthington, Ohio, but my husband is actually from Worthington, Minnesota. So I just feel like it's interesting, the coincidences of life. So I love that, and have that up here for her. She really enjoys having a spot to put all of her stuff, which is fun. But yeah, this room, such a joy. And I would say my kids play 90% of the time in here because we keep a lot of toys in the closet, and we've got her dollhouse out, of course. And beautiful bay windows, so she gets tons of light in here at this little table and chairs. This table actually was my husband's when he was little, and I painted it, another 2020 project, and now it's perfect in here. And I just think it's very sweet, and same color as the walls. I color matched Farrow and Ball's calamine. I just really love that. Very soft, pale pink. I'd say everything's pretty durable, and it's also like not precious, right? Like a lot of things are older, and like sometimes there'll be scratches on the table, and I'll just repaint them. But I often, again, I just thrift everything. And so if something does break, it's not a big deal. And I try not to have too much of an attachment to any material goods because it's just not important. Okay, welcome to our laundry room. It is very small but mighty. I had to show my space. I'm very proud of it. So I just put a drying rack here up on my counter, and I've got all my laundry stuff. I've become, as a mom, an expert stain remover, which is not a skill that I thought I would be bragging about, but here we are. Love my thrifted and locally made laundry baskets. People ask me all the time where this is from. It's from Toxie Free here in Stillwater. And then I keep a basket in here for clothes that my kids have outgrown, and then I keep a basket of shoes. So it's super convenient if I'm trying to pull something out because somebody's ready to grow into a size, or I want to lend some clothes to a friend. And I would love to, add a curtain in here and change some things, but I really appreciate this small but very purposeful space. I think the beadboard on the wall is really charming, and I love that we've got a view of the outside. It's very peaceful in here, even though it's where I do a lot of work. It's still really lovely. I would say peace is always my goal for decor and for life in general. Like the pursuit of peace and beauty, really important to me. They're intertwined. I feel like home should be a refuge from the world. It should be a place where we feel comfortable. And I want to create that always for my family, especially my children. I want them to have memories of home being very peaceful, even though we have a lot of small children. And of course, things are chaotic and loud. I'm always striving for peace, and that's partially why I choose the color palette that I do and the textures, because I need it, and I feel like my kids need it, and the world needs it. Okay, Okay, we're gonna head upstairs to our main bedroom and bathroom. Welcome to our main bedroom. We love it up here. This is like our little sanctuary. The funny story is this is a king size bed, but that was a very narrow staircase. And we actually bought one of those mattresses in a box. And that's the only reason why we have a king size bed up here. We did have to chop the headboard in half and kind of piece it back together. But we were able to make it work. I don't know how we'd ever get it out of here, but I love this space and I love having a king. These shams are vintage Ralph Lauren. I've just been so drawn to their fabric. It kind of reminds me of Sanderson prints. They're just beautiful to me, so I really love having that. And linen bedding, of course. The dressers in here are actually antiques that came with the home, so we kept them up here because we just love them. So there's this one. This is mostly my husband's. I keep some things up here, and then this is mine over here. And I've had all 4 of my babies out of hospital. My oldest was born at a freestanding birth center in Minneapolis called Roots. And then I've had the rest of my children here at home. And my boys were born downstairs, but I actually had my youngest, Penny, right over here. So every time I step out of my bed, I remember that day. So it's just kind of funny and crazy to think about that. It was a great memory. When we've had little babies, they always sleep right here by our window. This bassinet was actually a gift from a very good friend of my husband's who is from Ghana, and she unfortunately passed away from cancer a couple years ago, but I think she would love to know that we have used that bassinet for 4 babies. This is a picture that our engagement photographer took of us. That was taken in St. Paul. I love that picture and just makes me so happy to look at that. I just love it. Believe it or not, this chair was found at another thrift store. So the Habitat for Humanity, they have a thrift store, and I used to volunteer with them. And so I got a discount, which is amazing. So I bought this chair there at their resale shop. And I love it. I love the fabric on it. I love the tufting. It used to sit in our daughter's nursery years ago, which is a lot of fun. But let me take you into our main bathroom because it is lovely. So this is our main bathroom. We are so grateful to have a bathroom up here and shower and tub. It's just really wonderful. It feels very luxurious. These flowers actually, so I made this bouquet for myself on my due date before I had my baby, and then I just let them dry. And I love the way they look. I'm gonna keep them here for a long time. So I think they add kind of some fun texture to the space. I remember looking at them when I was in labor thinking, I wish this was over and I was done being pregnant. And now I have them up and I can enjoy them. They're just gorgeous. But my husband has a sink, of course, and I do, and I just really love the beadboard ceiling. I think it's just beautiful. And all of the points, like the triangle up here and then the triangle in the shower. Well, these came with the house. There's a couple that we've added, and I just think they make the space look a little bit larger. And it's nice too, because when my kids are in here, I can see them and I can see what they're up to, which is very helpful. And because the sinks are so low, it's nice to have these wall mirrors, because I wouldn't be able to see myself in this lower mirror and do my hair, which would not be good. We knew this was going to be the main suite, and we love it because definitely we need to have our own time and breaks from the kids. And so it just feels really peaceful to be up here. And I love it because it does feel like we're just kind of a world away, especially with the windows. I love these windows with the plantation shutters. I think they just are very charming, and the way the ceiling comes together is just very romantic to me. Well, come into my nursery. This is where our little baby stays, our daughter Penny. She's smiling. Yeah, hi honey. Do you have a good nap? She just is waking up from a nap. Yeah, baby. Is she, yeah, trying to figure out what's going on. So this used to be actually our guest room. Hi, baby girl. Yeah. I love this room so much. It is my favorite room in the house. I did add the wallpaper and it's new. It's peel and stick. But what I love about it is the company, it's called Love versus Design. They allow you to customize the colors. And so I wanted to do a little bit more of a muted, almost antique look. And I found that through Love versus Design, and I had a lot of fun putting up all the paper in here. The crib, new, but it looks old. We actually did find this dresser on Marketplace, of course, and my husband last year for Mother's Day stripped it and sanded it down. I love these details. And so this has been in here since I was pregnant, waiting for little Miss Penny to arrive. You're so smiley. I love our row of hooks. I'm just obsessed with peg rails and hooks. And this bunny picture, it's actually public domain art. So you can find a lot of public domain art that you can reproduce for personal use online. And I added this antique portrait because it's got a couple of kids in it. And I feel like that mom sometimes. I'm like, what are my kids doing? And they're like, the boys are down the lane. It just cracks me up. I love that this room has all these windows in it. I found this antique cradle. I just had to have it, mostly for taking photos. And then this piece, actually, a coworker of mine gave this to me. This was in her son's room for many years. I always admired it. And one day she asked me if I wanted it, and I said yes. And her dad bought it at a Salvation Army back in the 70s, I think for like $1.25 or something. It's so silly. It's just incredible to me. But I use this. I keep a lot of Penny's like sheets in here, and obviously an old pot. I should do more gardening. But I love it. I store all of her clothing, not in that other dresser. But over here, I've got a shelf that I found, again, on Marketplace. I just wanted something to put up to display things. I made this for Penny when I was expecting, so it's a little cross-stitch just from a kit. I wanted to have it, and then she's got a silhouette too, and then this is her little handprint from Christmas time. Remember when you made that? And then keep a lot of stuff like sleep sacks in here, storage. And then over here is the closet. It's really fun because I've got a vintage playpen in there just for decor, and I've got all her clothes, and I love how that little space turned out. I had a vision of just a beautiful, feminine, sweet, soft space. After having 2 little boys, we were so excited to find out that we were having a little girl, and I just knew she had to have like the most feminine, sweet little bedroom. And it really seems to match her personality, which is really fun. She's just a very sweet, cuddly mama's girl baby. What does home mean to me? Home to me is the feeling that I get when I walk in the door of peace and joy. Home is, of course, family and the people who I get to share these 4 walls with. My husband, who I love dearly, and then these 4 kids who are just such a blessing. So that is home to me. It's peace and family.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.